One way to enhance your presentations is to use color. So let's take a look at how to change the background color of a slide. Now this is done using the design menu. So let's go over to the design menu. And one of the first things you'll see a lot of these themes across the top. And if I hover my mouse over any one of these themes, you'll notice how that changes the look of the slides. Now, if I were to click on these, it would actually change every slide in the presentation. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to show you how to add color to the background of an individual slide. So let's go over to the far right and click on Format Background. Now, this brings up a menu that we can use to add in solids, gradients, or pictures. Now, I'm going to select my Section 1 slide. And by default, it's set to a solid fill. And in this default template, that solid is white. But let's go ahead and change the color. So I'm going to select here, and this gives me a number of ways to change color. We can select a standard color, so I'm going to select this light blue. If we don't like that, we can left click again. We have our standard colors. We also have a color picker. So if I wanted to, I could change the color however I want here. I could use RGB colors or hex colors. And finally, I can also use an eyedropper to select colors from anywhere in the presentation. So notice how if I go outside of this, that eyedropper disappears. So you need to be kind of hovered over a picture or something like that. Now, if you want to go a little bit further with color, you can use what's called a gradient. So let's go ahead and select the title slide. And since the title is in the center, let's go ahead and put a gradient in there that highlights that word. So I'm going to go ahead and select Gradient Fill. So in this case, by default, we have presets by color. So I'm going to go ahead and select a darker one. Let's go ahead and select this gray one. The type, I want that to be radial. And then the direction, we can select from any corner or from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and select this from the center. Notice how that changes. And then if we want to fine tune this even more, we can use what are called these gradient stops. So if I left click and drag them, you can kind of see how that changes the positions of the color. Well, we can also change the colors themselves. So if I select this stop here on the far right, and I select my color picker, I can select a much darker color. So something maybe like that. And then here, I can select something maybe in the middle. Maybe something like that. Or maybe a little bit lighter. And so on. So I can make this one maybe even a little bit darker. And again, I can adjust the positions of these colors to highlight what I want. Now, finally, we can also add in pictures. So let's go ahead and select this last slide, Content 1. And if I click here on Picture or Texture Fill, it will default to a texture. Now, we can select that texture here. So if I wanted to, I could change it really to any color I want. But in this case, I want to add in a picture. So I'm going to go here to Picture Source. It's going to ask me to insert. Now we can insert from a file. We can insert from stock images. I'm going to go ahead and close that. We can insert from online pictures. So we can use Bing to search for pictures. Now with these sorts of online pictures, you do have to pay attention to licensing requirements. But let's go ahead and select our own image. So I'm going to go from File. And then under Exercise Files Assets, there should be one called quadrocopter.blueprint. Let's go ahead and insert that. And there's my image. Now the image came in a little bit big. We can change the size of this using these offsets. So I have an offset top, bottom, left, and right. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 0 for top, 0 for bottom, and that pretty much centers it. Now, if this image is a little bit too bold, you can also use a transparency. So I'm going to go ahead and use transparency to maybe fade it out so that we can see the text a little bit better. So those are some ways to add color to the backgrounds of your presentations.